there guys, welcome to the meat shop. Today I have a request from Gilbert Hardy to make a video on a coarse ground ham kielbasa. So we're going to give you all the information we know about kielbasa. I'll give you the recipe and we'll give you the process and steps and tips and techniques along the way. So if you guys like it, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and if you want something made up, leave a request down below and I'll hopefully get to it one day. Let's get started. Okay, the coarse ground ham kielbasa. So kielbasa, basically, kind of like in my bratwurst video, it's just means sausage. Kielbasa means sausage. It's Eastern European, so in Polish, Ukrainian, Czechoslovakia, and all those places, it's just pronounced kind of different. I think it's Kielbasa in Czech and kielbasa in Ukrainian or Polish or whatever. But basically just means sausage. So when you're talking, I want a kielbasa, it could be all different kinds of recipes, all different shapes and sizes, all different kinds of meat. So that's what kielbasa is. But when we think of kielbasa in North America, particularly like in the Midwest, it's smoked for sure. It's usually got a heavy smoke on it. It's kind of garlicky and it's usually pork. Yeah, you can get fine ground textures, you can get coarse ground textures, and it's usually pretty unique to the butcher. But for the most part, like Stanley Marinsky, he's one of the best. He's got a super great book. In his, he talks about the Polish sausage and like the fundamentals of a kielbasa or the Polish sausage, kind of interchangeable, is salt, black pepper, garlic, and I think he says everything else from there is perfume. So it's whatever you like. This one we're going to kind of do two different textures, so it's going to be kind of two sausages combined into one to make the ham kielbasa. So one part of it is going to be a fine textured garlic sausage, and the other part of it's going to be kind of a coarse textured ham. So in order to do that, I've got the meat ground up already ahead of time. What you would do though is you would, this little pile here, this one here, is a fine grind, is double ground, finished on a fine grind. The second one is a coarse grind, and it's a leaner meat, like a pork loin or a pork leg is what you want to use. I'm going to make mine all out of pork. You could do a pork beef combination, you could do a veal pork combination, a venison pork combination. When doing venison though, the coarse ground one, since it's going to be ham, like pork works really good for that because pork's quite mild. You might get a bit of a stronger venison flavor if you did the coarse grind out of venison, just so you know. But you want to get a lean something for the ham. So it's, you know, a lean pork loin, which is cheap, pork leg, which is cheap. Take off the connective tissue and fat, or a fair bit of it anyways, and finish it on a coarse grind. So I'll grab some plates for you just so you guys see the difference for the coarse and fine. Okay guys, so here's the different plates just so you guys can see the different textures. I'm sure you guys are familiar with it, but I finished the fine grind on this guy. That's 1/8 of a plate, or 1/8 of an inch plate. Get some focus on here, but you can see how small the holes are compared to this guy. This guy is what we did the coarse ham, what's going to be ham, and he's 3/8 of an inch plate. Now you could do the fine stuff in a emulsifier if you have a blender at home, or if you guys have a bowl cutter, this guy back here, you could take it right down to an emulsification. So that would really help the texture difference stand out. Also, if you guys don't have a coarse plate or whatever, you can cut the ham chunks by hand in just the little cubes. All you want to do if you're doing that is make sure it's going to fit through your stuffing horn. Otherwise, you're going to crank and they're going to launch out of there. You're going to have air pockets and stuff, so make sure they're fine. The equipment you're going to need is a little tote to mix it in, a sausage stuffer, a grinder, we ground it before, a little gram scale to mix your spices out, and some casings. Now, kielbasa, you can get, like I said, all different shapes and sizes. You can stuff these into a 29-32 millimeter, I'm going to stuff these into a 40-42 hog casing. So they're going to be a little bit bigger diameter. I think they just look better, and I kind of use mine for cheese and crackers. So that's kind of kielbasa. That's the stuff you need. That's kind of the texture difference explained. So we'll dive into the recipe for you, which I'll put down below. And like I said, guys, if there's something in here that you don't like, or there's something in you want, go ahead and add it. The kielbasa is specific to you and what you like. But in the kielbasa side, the garlic kind of fine textured meat, I'm going to put salt at 15 grams per kilogram, black pepper 3.5 grams per kilogram, garlic powder 5.5 grams per kilogram, marjoram, ground marjoram 1 gram per kilogram, sugar 2.5 grams per kilogram. Cure, because I'm going to smoke this stuff, we're going to give it a good heavy smoke. So in everything we smoke, we need a little bit of cure, because it's going to be in that danger zone, which is above 5 and below 60, 42 to 150, 145 Fahrenheit. So we need that cure at 3 grams per kilogram. Sodium erythorbate or sorbic acid, whatever cure accelerator you have. You don't have to use it, but you will need to give it a little more time to cure. At 0.5 grams per kilogram, and then binder and water. Binder at 10 grams per kilogram. So that's the garlicky one. The ham one, which I'll also link below, is salt, brown sugar, California ham spice. California ham spice is a pre-mixed spice. You can buy it at all sorts of different butcher supply stores. It's super common, but it's basically a little bit of salt, sugar, cinnamon, and maybe a little something else, but you can pick it up at any butcher supply shop. Then we're going to use cure again for the ham, because it's going to be in the smoking process as well. 3 grams per kilogram. Cure accelerator, sodium erythorbate, sodium ascorbic acid, or something like that. And then we're going to use a little bit of liquid smoke in our ham, and binder 10 grams per kilogram, and water. But like I said, that's linked below. If you like the recipe, give it a thumbs up. And I have them in separate piles here, guys, because I am going to season them individually. I mean, you can play with that a little bit. You can put it all in one big ball and season it all together. But I like to season the ham separate, and then I like to season the garlic sausage portion separate. So I weighed out all the spices ahead of time. I got them blended up here, and I will do that now. Get some gloves. Okay, do the mixing. You guys have seen this before. So I got, and here's a little bit of a texture difference for you. I'll bring this up closer. So you kind of, I know I showed you the plates and stuff, but just before we get mixing, like here is, you can see, if I get this camera to focus, the coarse ground ham. See those big chunks? Versus the fine ground pork. Now this is a pork butt. Get this to focus here. This is pork butt we ground up, so it's you can have a little bit higher, fatter content in this, because your pork loin is so lean, or your pork leg, whatever you're using for the ham portion, is so lean. But you can see the texture difference. This is quite fine versus this stuff is quite coarse, but it's got to be lean. But like I said, yeah, you can get away with having a little bit fattier stuff for the garlic side, because this pork loin is so lean. So we'll use that ham mixture, salt, brown sugar, California ham spice, and a little bit of liquid smoke and water, which I've measured out ahead of time. You want to be careful with the liquid smoke that you don't get too much, because it is quite strong. And you know, the reason that you don't have just all coarse ham is because that finer stuff, and I should have mentioned how much I'm doing, and I'll do that now, but that finer stuff is going to kind of fill the gaps between the coarse stuff, because kind of no matter how tight you get this, there's going to be little itty bitty air pockets, and they'll kind of crumble when you're eating it. So that really fine stuff's going to fill those gaps. So you kind of need you need the fine stuff with the coarse stuff. If you went all coarse, it would be kind of crumbly. So what ratio am I doing this at? You can, I would suggest having no less than the total amount of your sausage be 30% of the fine ground, a little bit fattier pork shoulder. So that would be 30% fine grind, 70% coarse grind. But you can really play with it and do whatever amount you want. I'm doing pretty close to 50-50. So this is 1.5 kilograms, just over 3 pounds, and this is 1 kilogram, 2.2 pounds. So it's going to be just a little bit more, just a little bit coarser than it is fine in the end texture. And I'll give that, it's all mixed up sufficiently, and then we'll do the same with the Polish side of this. Cut my salt, black pepper, garlic, marjoram, binder, and cure measured out, operating in grams per kilogram. And I'll link that below, like I said. And yeah, so guys, I'll just mix this up. You don't need to watch me mix it up. Then I'll set it aside for a little bit to allow those spices and things to penetrate into those, mostly into these. It takes a little bit to penetrate just because, you know, a little bit of moisture and stuff penetrates the coarser muscle just a little bit slower than this fine stuff that's got all the surface area for the spices to interact with and whatnot. So I'll do that, set it aside for a couple hours, and you don't have to do that. You could blend these together if you wanted, but I find it gives a more distinct texture and flavor difference in the sausage. So I'll mix this, pop them in the fridge, come back in a couple hours. Okay there guys, I've been letting these sit for a couple hours in the fridge. You don't have to do that step, but if you got the time, I think it shows up in the end, the product. It's just a little more quality stuff. And as you can see, you know, it's gone from a bright pink to kind of a darker gray, which means the curing process has happened and has taken place. So now I'll take these two and blend them together. Like I said, if you want to do this in a less amount of time or whatever, mix them up together a couple hours ago. Doesn't really matter. Well, it does a little bit in the end texture and end flavor. Just a little bit though. Grab our fine ground, a little bit fattier garlic sausage. Add it to our ham, our coarse ground ham, and we'll just get them worked together. Oh boy, that's smelling good. Good. Thanks again, Gilbert, for requesting this video. All right, let's get it blended up real good. You want that fine garlic, Polish kielbasa, to fill the gaps between the coarse bits of that ham we seasoned up. That's mixed up. I had the casings soaking. I'm not sure if I mentioned that in the last part of the video, but I got the casings out 40-42 millimeters, and they've been soaking for the last couple hours now, I guess. I got the stuffer loaded. We're going to use a 29-32 millimeter horn. And you guys can do this into whatever size you want. I'm going to do it into natural hog casings today, like I mentioned. But you could do it into large diameter fibrous casings. You could do this into coarse, into little sticks for like a coarse kielbasa snack stick. It doesn't matter. But go ahead and watch my how to pick sausage casings video for the different types if you want some different ideas on what size of sausage casing to use. And like with all the videos, we stuff all the sausages the same. Pack her down in there to get the air pockets out. Take your time with this sausage in particular, because that coarse stuff can give you some air pocket problems. So just really work it in there. Okay, we got that loaded up. So I'm using the 40-42 millimeter natural hog casing. Now these guys are a little bit trickier than your average 29-32 because the wall of the casing is the same size. But you're going to have more volume inside, so it's going to be more pressure on the outside of your casing. So these guys you have to be a little bit more careful with than the regular 29-32 millimeter casing because they are more prone to break. The other thing about these guys is since they're bigger, you're not going to need as much. You're going to get more. This is, I can tell already, way too much for what we need for our little 6-pound batch. But other than that, the process is the exact same as a 29-32 millimeter casing. You control the firmness by how hard you squeeze on the tip of the horn. I always leave just a little bit there, particularly for these ones because I'm going to do these into rings. And I'll show you guys that once we get it stuffed. So just take your time with these ones, guys. Let her, wait till you got a little bit coming out of the horn, like so. Squeeze her back down tight. And you can see the size difference on these ones. And you want to squeeze and make sure there's just a little bit of give. But you can, oh, I can see the texture difference in these already. And I do like these big hog casings. I find they're kind of a little more visually appealing than just the 2932s when you're doing something like this. But it doesn't matter what size you use, guys. Like I said, you could use a pepperoni casing if you wanted to. Always pinch. I can pinch a little bit of the way through, not all the way through. It's important not to overfill these ones though, guys, because there's a lot of pressure on that casing wall. Because of the extra couple millimeters, extra bit of volume. Okay, there it is. There's our batch, and for these guys, what I'll do is I'll pull off a couple, like an inch or so, because we're gonna tie them to our sticks. So don't be afraid to leave yourself a little bit on this one. And the linking process for a link is a little bit different than the linking process for everything else. You'll do like a smoky or a bratwurst, you'll just twist every 4 or 5 inches. But with these guys, since we're going to make rings, you'll twist, you know, about every 16 or inches or so, like that. So you'll pinch with this hand, it's just about all the way through if you can. Go another 16 or so inches, pinch, and then spin it towards yourself. One, being careful, because there's going to be a lot of pressure here and here where the twist is. 2, 3. And then when we hang these up, they're going to be kielbasa rings. Coarse ground ham kielbasa rings. And you don't have to do that though. I mean, if you want sticks, go every 7 inches or something like that. And spin 1, 2, 3. Then you'll have 2 sticks hanging there, like so. Or do a big one. I like the rings. They're going to look real pretty. It's going to be a little ring here. 1, 2, 3. So yeah, now guys, would be ready. We'll hang these up. Have some nice kielbasa rings, like so, in the smokehouse. They can go straight in the smokehouse right now, or if you guys want to give them a little more time for that protein extraction that we were shooting for during the mixing process, you can throw them in the tote and throw them in the fridge for overnight or whatever. But I'm gonna throw these in the smokehouse here right away. All right guys, so I got the ham kielbasa loaded up into the smokehouse. Looks funny, I don't think I've ever smoked smokehouse load this small. But yeah, so basically these guys here are gonna be our U-shaped ones, our rings here, and you can see those big twists we did. You just set them on the stick at the twist marks. So that's all there is to that, and that little bit of natural casing we left at the end there, side you can see a little better, that's the natural casing. You just tie to that to tie the last one on, is how you rack those. And you want to make sure during the smoking process that there is a space between them all. This allows the air to circulate between these. You'll get nice dry surface and good smoke adhesion. And so the steps to the smoking process on these guys is it's going to be one step is going to be drying about 150 to 155 Fahrenheit for an hour and a half. Or you guys can leave them out at room temperature with a fan on them for an hour. Then we're going to bring the temperature up a little bit to 155, 160, and we're going to smoke them with hickory, whatever kind of smoke you guys got or like you can use. And then we're going to bring them up to cook. I'm going to bring this temperature of the smokehouse up to 185 degrees Fahrenheit until the internal temperature of these guys hits 161 or 160 at 71. So I'm going to close the smokehouse up and I will give you guys an update on this little batch of sausage when it's done. Okay guys, so the alarm went off on the ham garlic kielbasa, which means it's done. It has reached 160 or 70 degrees Fahrenheit. And something I forgot to mention too, when you guys are probing the sausage, oh, look at those guys, they look good. Focus on them. You want to put that probe in the biggest middle part of the sausage. Now, they got nice smoke color on them. You can see the bits of pepper and stuff in those. Man, those look good. All right. We'll pull them out now and give them a ice bath, because we want to stop the cooling or the cooking at this point and cool them down really quick right away. But yeah, we just take them and I just give them a quick bath in here to cool them and stop that cooking process. And just make sure they're submerged. If you don't have ice, just cold running water is fine, and just a couple minutes, because you don't want to lose too much of that smoke flavor. We give them a nice heavy hickory smoke, so you want that to stay on there. So just a couple minutes, maybe a minute or two, whatever. Just enough to shock them, stop that cooking, and then you can rehang them back up, let them drip dry, and then that dark mahogany bloom will come back if you're worried. If you drop them in there and all that nice dark smoky flavor disappears, just hang them back up and let them drip dry at room temperature for 20 minutes or whatever. 20 minutes, half hour, until the bloom comes back, or if you can hang them up in the fridge, you can do that as well. So just a quick little water bath to shock them. Then we'll cut into these bad boys and I'll show you the texture difference that we were working on. Okay guys, just pulled them out of the ice bath there for you. Just cut between the joints where that sausage casing is. These guys are still a little bit warm, so you'll want to make sure that you pop them in the fridge or whatever overnight before you package them up. Ooh, it's a dull knife, thick casing. All right, but this is what we've been waiting for. I'll cut one of these guys. But yeah, see how that linking technique leaves you with that the sausage ring? That's probably what you're familiar with when you think about or hear about a Kielbasa sausage. And if you guys leave these uncovered overnight in the fridge, the bloom will come back even more. I just pulled them out of the ice bath. I didn't really give them enough time to air dry, but that mahogany and that nice color, you can see it'll come back. It'll be rich brown. But we'll cut into one of these guys. And oh yeah, look at that. Oh, I gotta get the focus right. But you can kind of see the texture difference there. You got the coarse bits of ham and that fine garlic sausage there. So there you guys go. That's the ham kielbasa. Okay guys, there we go. You can see the texture difference there real good. Got the fine ham stuff, or the fine garlic. Got the coarse ham there. And I cut into this. This is a little bit warm. You should let it set up a little bit before and you'd really see the distinctive difference. But oh yeah, that juicy ham. So anyways guys, there you go. That's the ham kielbasa sausage for you. So if you enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up and leave me a little comment below and we'll make a video for you one day. Thanks, take care.